All right, guys, welcome back for another episode of The Ethical Consumer. I'm here today with Tasya Kelen of Isador Nut Company out of Minneapolis, Golden Valley. You'll tell us kind of all about your locations and your stuff. Welcome, Tasya.
Thank you, Julia. It is an
Yes.
honor and a real pleasure to be on with you in this incredible podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we met, so that we had a previous guest, Kat from Social Mixers, that I also met in a yoga teacher training. I actually have some of her goods right next to me for our giveaway that's going to be happening next week. That was not on purpose. It's just thankfully right by my hip here. I met Kat in the 340 hour that I did last year at Dave in Minneapolis. And then we did our 200 hour together,
I did.
which seems like forever ago sometimes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because when I started the Nut Company, it was 2 months into the yoga teacher training. And I'm not quite sure why I thought I needed to sort of embark on two major projects at the same time. But there was something about learning about yoga and all of its various forms and benefits that made me think this is something that the whole world needs to sit up and take notice of. And when you get to the pieces of it that teach you about how to eat consciously and mindfully and know that what you're putting in your body can heal it or harm it, I think it just sort of felt like a natural progression.
For sure. I remember at the test out, the last class that we had to teach, you brought little, I think they were, maybe it was fancier than I am remembering, but like muffin papers full of like the nut mixes that you had crafted so far, I think.
I love it. That's a really good thing that you remember that. I just remember being nervous about not screwing up the final exam.
We were all there. Oh my gosh. Yes. So this started around the time, let's see, when was that? Was that 2014?
2013.
2013. Okay. So
Yeah.
Isador has been around for 7 years or so, but I'm going to assume that the thought behind it started much earlier. So when was the initial thought? The namesake of the company was actually a big inspiration for you, was it not?
Yeah, and the funny thing is it actually came a little bit later. The inspiration was definitely about healthy, delicious snacks. And I don't know if you can see my T-shirt that says I'm local.
I love it.
But Kingfield Farmers Market is probably there's probably like four impetuses that got me to create this, what is now an ethically sourced, inclusive snack and gift company. But I would say that it was having young children who I wanted to give healthy, delicious snacks to. It was learning about beneficial spices like turmeric and cumin seed that is very healing, and cinnamon, which is a warming spice that has a natural sweetener. Things like that you could put into food and enhance something that already has protein, like nuts. And get it here to the Kingfield Farmers Market, because I was gluten-free, and going to the farmers market, I didn't see things aside from really great veggies and other produce that would be a healthy snack for me personally. And I figured I wasn't alone in needing something delicious and healthy and gluten-free. And so that was a big piece of it, was wanting to bring something to the local farmers market where we were spending our Sundays, and wanting to have an option for my kids that was delicious, but then also gave them a boost of energy. And taking what I was learning in my yoga about eating, I don't know if we were going to go there, but eating for our dosha, and being really tuned into what different types of food benefits our personal constitutions based on an Ayurvedic principle. We're probably getting too much in the weeds here, and then we're going to have to back it up and explain to your listeners who don't know what we're talking about.
I should do a little mini-sode on Ayurveda, actually, because that's something that came up in Cats, too, and I think it's going to come up again in a few weeks here. We're going to have another guest on that is kind of in the yoga world, in the chocolate and coffee industry. And I'm sure it's going to come up more just because that is kind of that's my life outside of the podcast, guys. If you didn't know, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm pretty sure everyone knew that by now. But Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga too. Brief download on that one. And it's more than just physical postures. It's more than just meditation. It's more than just breathing and energy work. There's a whole lifestyle science that goes alongside with it called Ayurveda. And without getting too much into that, yeah, it's eating for how you feel, eating for what's going on, whether there's positive things going on or maybe negative things going on. Even something as simple as ginger tea to settle an upset stomach, or rose water for a reddened or warmed face. Like those little bits kind of make it into kind of the mainstream healing and wellness now. It's really becoming a lot more mainstream, which makes me happy. But yeah, brief little intro to that for those of you who are not in the loop with Ayurvedic ways.
and the other thing I would just add is I threw out that word dosha, and we know there's 3 different constitutions to doshas, and we don't have to deep dive into that too much. But what we could say is that it's becoming so popular for people to want to learn more about Ayurveda and how it applies to what they eat and how they live, that you can go online. You could just Google dosha quiz, DOSHA, and figure out like what your dosha is, and things will just fall into place and make so much sense.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Whenever I've pointed a friend in that direction, or if I'm like forgetting, you become a teacher and then you still practice the things and you know all the things, but it's always easier to solve someone else's problem as opposed to your own, right? And then you remember all of the things. Yeah, Banyan Botanicals has a good one. Deepak Chopra's site, Chopra Institute, has one. There's a bunch, honestly, anymore. Yeah, but it's fun, and you'll recognize some perhaps spice recommendations or recommended spices to avoid, which you have in your nut mixes too.
Yeah, nice segue.
Did you craft them? Let's see. Have you done a specific dosha line, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, or have you just kind of worked with the spices that play nicely together?
Yeah, I would say that it's been in the back of my mind to create specific dosha spices, but for now, it's just been what play well together.
Sure.
The very first flavor we created was called Cayenne Kick. Okay. So real quickly for your listeners, we do snack nut mixes. So organic cashews, organic walnuts, non-GMO pecans. We high protein, low sugar, so we just sweeten with a very little bit of local maple syrup, and then it's all of those spices kind of coming together. So the very first flavor we created was Cayenne Kick, and it was I'm not a trained chef, so I just love to play in the kitchen. And if this was like a riff on a recipe I found in the old gourmet magazine, back when people like flipped through magazines. I suppose it really wasn't that long ago. Maybe there was some online as well. But I don't think gourmet exists anymore. So little homage to that. But the thing I wanted to add specifically to that cayenne kick recipe spice nut mix that I was finding was turmeric.
Okay.
Specifically because it's an antioxidant, it's anti-inflammatory. And what I learned actually from a colleague, and I love black pepper, so I put black pepper on lots of things. But what I learned from someone was actually the black pepper that helps absorption of the health benefits of turmeric. So you could take turmeric in your tea or whatever, but if you're not adding in a little bit of black pepper, you're actually kind of losing some of the benefits that you could be gaining. But then we did lemon and rosemary, and lemon, it's just like that great kind of acidity, brightness that comes through. But rosemary actually helps with concentration. And there's some cumin seed in there and white sesame seed. And cumin seed is the most popular spice worldwide after black pepper. So to really be able to kind of balance those flavors, helping them play nicely together, and being conscientious of, constitutionally, what does that do for for actually when you put it in your body.
Sure. Do you think maybe in the future you would offer dosha mixes, or you would, I don't know, are you experimenting with new flavors, or are you fairly pleased with your offerings right now? You think you have 4 or 5 flavors, is that correct?
Yeah, we've got 5 main flavors, and we add a couple flavors at the holidays. I really like to say that Isador nuts are not candied nuts, but
Yes.
a couple years ago we did start doing a variation that was just pecan mixes, and it's chocolate mint crunch, and we actually use little bits of candy cane pieces on there because it's the holidays and because people, but it's really easy to control that amount of sugar. I mean, because you're still getting protein from the nuts, and as opposed to 22 grams of sugar or Snickers bar, even
Right.
with your packed with peanuts, this is just a little, this is about 6 ounces of sugar per, handful or something. So it's nothing exorbitant, nothing crazy, but just a little bit more sweet to go with it. But just doubling back to your question about, would we get into, kind of dosha spices? It's funny because I think that the new development in healthy foods is kind of naturally taking on that, helping people understand that eating mindfully is just so important.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be really careful about just hitting people over the head with it too. No one really wants to be told how they should eat, but if
Right.
you can kind of slip it in, and then just more subtly explain I don't know. It's an interesting question. I would definitely consider it. Whenever I've seen things marketed to the dosha, it's very specifically Vata, Pitta, Kapha.
Yes.
So people know exactly what they're getting and who should be for. I really think it'd have to be a lot more subtle than that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And with wellness too, even the companies that have taken on an Ayurvedic kind of inspiration, whether it's fully grounded and like you said, kind of hitting people over the head with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if, there's a calming mix, things like that, calming versus awakening versus inspiration or something like that. I mean, you have essentially Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, Pitta, and then Vata in that order. but it's a lighter way of saying it. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily like here's your diagnosis and here's your remedy. Here's a little inspiration for you. Here's a little added juju. Hey guys, just wanted to hop on real quick and interrupt to let you know that we are hosting a giveaway with some of the fantastic guests we've had so far on the show. Head on over to our Instagram, the.ethical.consumer, to see how you can enter to win some fantastic products from Raw Street Coffee Roasters, Social Mixers Simple Syrup, Cassie Green Health Elderberry Syrup, Yellow Table Farm, Eco Lips, and 12 Tides. We will be giving away 2 gift baskets. These are going to be wonderful stocking stuffers, wonderful gifts, and a wonderful way to treat yourself and experience some of the wonderful products you've heard about on our prior episodes. Head on over to Instagram, get your details, and get entered to win. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you haven't already. Go and check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Hint, those are some ways you can enter. And back to our show.
Okay, maybe we need to collaborate.
Oh, that'd be fun. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Oh, so cool.
I love it. I love it.
So, and you're already collaborating with a couple other people, actually. So, or not people, but other brands. So you are on the website right now, guys. Holidays are coming up. You can find some combo collaborative gifts as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about those? Because those look beautiful.
Sure. Yeah. Well, last year I created something called the Women Owned Goods gift box, specifically because I felt like we just really needed to highlight women. I'm in Minneapolis, so Minnesota, women-owned companies. I wanted to specifically draw attention to that and highlight and celebrate other women-owned companies. And so we created this wooden box, and it has a nice logo on it, and that inside would be products, other food products from women-owned companies that I been connected to over time. And we're actually in the process of I feel like we could take these conversations in a million different directions, but I do want to highlight that we're in the process of featuring some different makers, which I think is a nice thing to do because you kind of want to spread the information and support. But one of the people that is a dear friend, her name is Heidi Skoog, and she has something called Serious Jam, and it's on our website, and it's a beautiful product. And we're not going to be able to have it in our box this year because she can't get glass jars.
Oh.
The supplies are so messed up right now. Everything is so backed up, Julia. It's really a mess. I mean, when you talk about the conscious consumer, it's like 2020 is challenging every single notion we have of just about everything. And supply lines are really, really messed up right now. I mean, I've even got some issues with supply right now that I'm like, how am I going to make that work? But it is forcing, it is giving me the opportunity to highlight some other special makers. So this woman, Grandma's Gourmet, does some really creative and delicious jams, and we're going to be able to feature her. And there's something called Well Rooted Teas. And Rachel Bankin is this amazing herbalist who works with a local herb grower and comes up with these really meaningful, mindful type teas. And she's very focused on what types of herbs are going to be healing in the seasons that we're in. And her packaging is exquisitely beautiful, and they're compostable bags. Yeah, that's a really special thing.
Cool.
So I won't talk too much about the different things that are on there, but the idea is to really just kind of help give attention to other really fabulous makers that are out there. And I don't know if you don't mind my little segue, but one of the things that I found the need to pivot to in the last couple years, because when I started the company 7 years ago, there weren't a lot of healthy, delicious snacks in the nut department that weren't candied. And so I felt like I was filling a void and making a thing available to people that they hadn't yet had. And particularly when you throw in some of those great Ayurvedic spices, people are just like, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about putting these things together. It's not just sugar and salt. But over time, over the last 4 or 5 years, other companies have figured out that people want less sugar and they do want more beneficial ingredients, and that everybody has some kind of a food sensitivity or allergy that they need to account for in their diets. So bigger companies have grown up around us and have been able to scale and fill some of that void that we were trying to fill on a much, much larger level. So I would say that if it hadn't been for a change that we made, which was moving to a commercial kitchen that was located at a place called JHAP, stands for Jewish Housing and Programming, and they support housing for people with different disabilities. And it became this incredible opportunity for me to be able to hire people who have disabilities and bring them onto the Isador Nut Company team. And that has become a hugely important mission for us. Particularly with 80% unemployment in the disability community, we are just trying to help reduce that little by little. So the delicious snacks have gone to a way to provide meaningful employment to people who've been overlooked in mainstream employment. And even more so now with the pandemic, people, they just need to hold on to their jobs. So much more than ever before. There just aren't the options that we had 10 months ago.
10 months, right? So you'd think there'd be a year after that, but no, it's months. So much has changed in the past 10 months. It's crazy. And I didn't know that you were employing people of all abilities too until I checked back in with you recently. I've been aware of Isador. I've followed you guys on Instagram since I think you created your Instagram, and I've run into you a couple times, just happenstance up at Dunn Brothers in Minneapolis, of all places, down the hill from the yoga studio. And I've seen, I think, are you guys at Penny's? Do you have, there's another local shop around there.
Yeah, we had been. There's the Clancy's Meats.
Okay.
So in that Linden Hills area, we're at Linden Hills Co-op.
Okay, sure.
And that's been amazing for us. In fact, one of my favorite things is always to be a co-op member, and so we started out in the Wedge, and that was one of our first that was just one of my pride and joys early on.
So I'd seen you guys at Penny's, a coffee shop up there, and then you're at a few other Linden Hills businesses where Devanati Yoga School is too. So it's been nice to kind of like follow you as you go, but I didn't know until recently that your employment benefits, the wonderful things that you're doing. So that's associated with the commercial kitchen that you're into. Is this a shared building?
Yes.
Okay.
So Cornerstone Creek Apartments is connected, has a commercial kitchen connected to it. And actually that was sort of how everything started, was just kind of having my eyes open to the fact that there was so much disability in there's so much unemployment in the disability community, and that I really wanted to, make a dent in that. But it has, our opportunity to hire people has expanded beyond that building, and we're working with some different programs that are out there, transition programs, and really trying to provide employment to people who have struggled, and with different disabilities. And that to me is just, I mean, it's one of the most important things I've ever done, because people. It's just one of those basic things, right? We all just want to feel purposeful. We know that there are things that we're gifted to do, or even just capable of doing, really simple things. But for some people, that simple thing may be really hard. But when they get a chance to do it and can prove themselves, that makes for a really, really gratified individual who just feels so proud to feel purposeful. And that's one really special thing that I feel like we've been able to offer. And really, in the last few months with the pandemic, it's become vital, that we are selling holiday gifts and delicious snacks, because it means that people who are struggling to pay bills and things like that, I can give them that paycheck. And I think that's what's going to kind of help us all through this pandemic is just figuring out what we can contribute to, and what we can, how we can support one another. Looking around and seeing what does your community look like, and who is in it, and what do they need. So that it's and I think, I mean, we could even take this back to yoga, right?
Everything goes back to yoga, guys. Everything. In my world, at least. But I think, in just the world in general, the service nature of it.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what it is. It is understanding how we just need to just kind of, share that love. It just feels so much better when you share love and support of your community versus like, oh, I'm just going to take what's mine and not worry about the rest of you, and fend for yourselves.
Right.
Like, figure it out. It's like, no. What is that? That leaves you feeling really hollow inside at the end of the day, I think.
I agree. It's one of the more heartwarming moments of 2020, perhaps, is there, because there are good points that we can hang on to, is that I think a lot of people are really realizing that sometimes all we have is community and love and support, and that those things will come through. I got a little tears in my eyes right now. So for the past 2 episodes that we've recorded for this show, I've actually gotten a little emotional on talking about like community and being there and support and asking for help and seeing someone who maybe doesn't even need help, but just could use a little extra support, or finding, those pockets in your community that may be a little bit more deficient in resources, whatever they may be, and whatever you take deficiency to be, like just anything, just seeing something, got goosebumps, seeing something and doing something about it. Like those are the great parts. Now I'm full goosebumps. Those are the good parts. There's definitely been like a huge reckoning this year, I think. And unfortunately a disrupted supply chain too. But there's got to be upset to realize things and to change things and to, keep making the world a better place. I think there has to be some stark realizations and realizing the downfall and shortcomings of some of our systems, and fixing the systems so that everyone has a spot at the table. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everyone can have something to them that's purposeful and meaningful, and we all just want to be seen and heard and needed. Like that is the basic human desire, I feel like, to be seen, heard, needed, and feel important and purposeful. And you're doing that.
Oh, right back at you, sister. You're doing that too. Anytime. I mean, I haven't had the pleasure of taking one of your classes, but anytime you're able to get on your mat and be guided by a teacher who's, at their core is just to uplift the people around them. That is just, that's just the greatest gift of all.
We'll just keep uplifting everything we can, and then the world's just gonna like sparkle like the rest of our souls.
Yes, yes. We just might need to be spending a lot more time on our yoga mats.
Yeah, mine's rolled up over there, and it's gonna get on. We're gonna get on that later. Oh, too funny. Now, aside from being a wonderful business owner, super employer, and yoga teacher, you are also a mom, and family. I mean, obviously, was a huge inspiration for you to create something wonderful that your kids would want to eat, that would be nutritious for them. And as I understand, your grandfather actually kind of spearheaded that.
So, yes, spearheaded in the sense that my dad's dad, named Isador, really helped instill in my dad clean eating, healthy diet. So, my grandfather in St. Louis in the 1950s would go into the grocery stores and he'd ask for organic foods, and no one knew what he was talking about. Because really organic was just what farmers did. Like there wasn't any, you know, highly modified, genetically modified foods at that point. It was just what farmers did. But he was naming it, and he was definitely a trailblazer. And he ended up getting, takes this back to the earlier part of our conversation about health. He ended up getting Parkinson's, and Western medicine really didn't know what to tell him. So he went in search of his own healing modalities, and he found acupuncture and hands-on healers. Which for a Jewish family to go find some evangelical, Baptist healers is definitely some of our family lore. Um, and he did juice fasts, and I extrapolate he believed food is medicine. And so that's really what I want people to think about when they, when they eat our snacks, because it does go back to this idea of simpler times when you kind of knew that your food was more pure, and you just didn't have to question it as much. And so for us, it's very much about sourcing organic, working directly with the farmers who, I'll just do a shout out real quick about Miller pecans. So they're non-GMO pecans, but Miller pecan, if you go to their website, you're just bowled over by their commitment to environmental stewardship. And, pecans are a really interesting, nut, because the way they're grown and the thick shell that encases around the nut itself is so thick, pesticides can't really permeate it. So to go to that extra length and to say, yeah, it needs to be organic, it's like for a pecan grower, it's like, no, we're able to provide something really good for you without having to do a lot of extra stuff. But in the case of Miller pecan, their commitment to environmental stewardship is right there front and center on their website. So that's something I can feel really, really good about. And so our ingredients are really straightforward and simple: high protein, low sugar, and giving people something that really does taste delicious. Because that, at the end of the day, I think about when I started this company, and there were a lot of healthy snacks that tasted like cardboard. And there was a lot of like sugary snacks trying to masquerade as health food. And so what I wanted to do was bring something right in the middle that tasted great, was good for you, but didn't like leave you thinking you need to run for your toothbrush or worse.
Right. Oh, I completely agree. And that was the difficulty. Yeah, even 10 years or so ago, the pleasure that one can take in some healthier snacks now is significantly higher than some of the, consumer packaged goods health snacks of, prior days, I guess. The cardboard, I'm remembering a few of them. And I'm remembering, I'm not going to cite the brand, but when I was working at the health food store too, they actually did, they modified their formula. And I think companies are just slowly bringing the cardboard back up to a delicious level that,
Right.
that more people want to eat because, it's okay, here's this healthy thing. And like, I make some smoothies and some juices that my sweet fiance is like, what is in that? Looks gross. And I'm like, no, just try it. It's good. And, I've acquired a very high tolerance palate for some things that it's like, oh, it's good for you.
Right.
And he's like, this doesn't taste good at all. What's wrong with you? But yeah, you should be able to get healthy food and nutritious food that also tastes good and not just have to put all of the things in a blender and guzzle it down and pretend it didn't exist. But yeah, bridging that gap is hard. And you've done it effortlessly, and you don't have chunks of sugar falling off of your glorious pecans either.
Unless it's just little bits of candy cane pieces.
Oh, that's holidays. That's okay. I think there are exceptions to every rule or desire.
Julia, I think that's a really important thing. And I did want to kind of hearken to that, is this idea that like we have too much pressure on us.
Ugh.
Like, listen, like you said, I have kids. And when Halloween came around, they had every opportunity to go and just get loaded up. And I indulged. I'm not ashamed to say I was like searching out the Snicker bars and Reese's peanut butter cups or whatever, and just like, because we do have to just kind of live in a way of moderation, because you'll drive yourself crazy if all you're trying to do is search out just like that healthy option. And it turns people off. I mean, as a parent, I'm worried that I'm driving my kids the opposite direction, because if they, don't get enough junk food in their life, then they're just going to go seek it out tenfold. And then it's like,
they're gonna rebel.
Yes, all my good work is just for naught. So mom, will occasionally buy that bag of Cheetos, and mom will, that's the biggest one. They're just like, Mama, Cheetos.
Oh, so
and if
good.
it gets me an extra hug, it didn't shorten their life. So
no, completely. And I think that's been, a lot of guests have talked about that too, with, to be so stringent is almost, it doesn't always feel good.
Yeah.
Like, we're certainly not going into like eating disorders or anything like that on this episode, but when you feel like you're depriving yourself of something, that doesn't feel good. And you almost want that thing even more, but you can't have it and you shouldn't have it. And then there's this guilt that gets built up around it, that this is like a forbidden thing and it's bad for you. And yoga too, like, eating something with the intention of like, this is a treat. This is nourishment for my soul, maybe not my body, but this is my treat, and I'm going to eat this and appreciate this. Even the thoughts that you place around food have an effect, truly have an effect. Oh, forget, we're going into it, guys. Have an effect on your digestive system and the energy you put around it and how you feel after you eat it. If you're thinking and putting good thoughts into that Cheeto, it's gonna be great. Okay, but and then you have this negative thought around this Cheeto. Glad we're talking about Cheetos, and then you feel guilty, like, okay, maybe you ate a handful and not one Cheeto. But this is being recorded and coming out very shortly after Thanksgiving and the holidays. And I think I just shared on my personal Instagram, we're about to get hit with that lose that quarantine 15 in the new year. Guys, let's not. Can I just make a PSA right here, right now? Can we just not? Like, it's... Yeah. Food is nourishment. Food can be, poison if you want to think about it that way. But you're also not going to rid yourself of, any accumulated weight fast by avoiding eating things right now. And there's time for indulgence. And are there, better or lesser indulgent points? Yes. Okay. Of course. I'm, talking so much right now, but
no, but really, what's important about what you said too, and this is one of those great things Ayurveda teaches us, and we can harken back to the turn of the century, and I don't mean the turn of 2000, I mean the turn of 1900, where people were, they worked really hard and outside, and in the winter, you need to put on some extra layers to keep yourself going strong, so that you can, lift those extra bales of hay or whatever. And granted, we don't need that. We're not all farmers at this day and age, but we do need that extra padding to get us through the colder months. And that's kind of what this season is about, is that nourishment. And like you talked about, it's a mental and it's a physical nourishment. And we just, I hadn't even heard about the whole lose the quarantine 15, but just, keep it there. Okay, I have to quote something I heard on the radio the other day, which was Ina Garten, great chef, culinary guru, who said, you can feel bad before you eat a cookie. You can feel bad after you eat a cookie, but no one feels bad while they're eating a cookie.
Oh, I like that.
So go enjoy a cookie.
Yes, enjoy your cookie.
Make it yourself if you can. And if you can't, find a really cool company that looks new and someone you haven't heard of before, and maybe has only 3 or 4 ingredients in their list, and hopefully knows how they source them. Is it non-GMO? Is it is there some kind of social give back component? I'm stealing your mic for a second, but that is kind of what goes back to that conscious consumer, is pick up the bag, take that extra 5-6 seconds and look at the label and see where it comes from. And if that thing has a ConAgra stamp at the bottom right corner of the back of the bag, I can pretty much guarantee you there's not a mom and pop who made the effort to make that product. It was either forged in a lab, or maybe at one point in time there was a mom and pop involved, but now it's owned by a multinational corporation.
Right.
And that doesn't help. That doesn't help the little guy. That doesn't help the community that you live in for ConAgra stock to rise. So just take a few extra moments, look at those labels, see if there is some kind of a give back. I mean, just talking about competition for a moment, there's a major nut company called Sahale Snacks. And when I learned that they I think they do 1% back for the planet, and they use wind power in their factories. Like, hallelujah, good for them. Like, you know what? If you want to if you want to splurge and buy our product because it's not cheap, because it is handmade, because we are hiring with intention. And we are sourcing as carefully as possible, and that does mean the cost is going to be greater. Please, I would be grateful for you to make those choices. But if you just, you just need a quick snap pick me up and Sahale's there and it's $2.50 at the checkout or whatever, go for it, because you do know that they're also doing good.
Sure. Definitely. And there's so many things. We talked about this just briefly before we started recording too. There's so many things that you can care about, and so many things that we have this wonderful privilege to care about, that, some of it's local, some of it's women owned, some of it's Minnesota owned, Iowa owned, and some of it's giving back for the planet. Some of it's non-GMO. There's so many things. And as long as we keep making the better choices, and hopefully always, supporting the little guy too, because truly that's a huge impact to all of our communities, is supporting the small and supporting the local. But as long as we keep doing everything we can, even if there's some imperfections along the way, or like you said, perhaps not being at a spot that sells Isador and having another option that is also not a harmful option to the planet, that does give back to humanitarian organizations and things like that. Any little thing that we can do does make a huge difference. And there are points in our lives and in our day where we can make the biggest difference. And then points in our lives where we're like, this is still a really good difference. That guilt is a hard thing. Guilt is a difficult thing, but we got to release that and just keep doing everything that we can, and know that we're on the right path, and we're going to keep making better decisions all the time.
I think the next generation is really learning that. They get to trailblaze now. They get to see that, an entrepreneur can start out at a farmer's market and then, be able to sell nationwide, because we have the platforms and the ability to do that. And then maybe sometime a big company will pick you up and give you a bigger platform. But I think millennials and this next generation, my daughter's generation, really see like kind of the, sky's beyond the limit, So hooray, right? Like we don't have to be in our Kraft and General Mills paradigm. We can.
Oh man. And bless the subsidiary companies that have gotten picked up and can keep doing the good work with all of the funds and all of the things and all of those. But
yeah,
I'd rather support the Wedge Co-op in Linden Hills than Unilever. So
yeah.
Oh man, I love it. Oh, Tasya, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with me today. I've had so much fun. We've talked about Ayurveda. We've talked about, the guilt versus allowance and permission paradigm that we're all kind of stuck in constantly, I think.
Yes.
And your wonderful, wonderful goods, of course, and your inclusive employment and your partnerships with some other super wonderful businesses. Now you said, okay, and I wrote some of them down. Miller Pecans is one of your suppliers that is just magical, and you can see all the stuff on their website.
Yep.
And then the jams, that is so sad to me to know that there's a small business that is also just, it's been a constant thing in 2020, of course, but the supply chain being affected, that she can't have as much of her product right now because she can't get jars.
Yeah.
Who was that?
That was Serious Jam.
Okay.
Visit her website. It's beautiful. She works directly with farmers to source, fruits of the moment. Oh my gosh, she's just so creative, and product is fantastic, and her packaging is beautiful, and we use her jars for any such fun thing. And she will be back. I mean, she's still actually at farmers markets. She's even in Rose and Loon. That's another one to shout out about.
Okay.
They're located in Rosedale, and I think they've got gift boxes online if you're not able to get out there. But I think it's it just does come back to like support local. And you mentioned Instagram a few minutes ago. Yesterday was Small Business Saturday, and there was just this cacophony of local makers supporting one another and like throwing up on their pages and their stories like, hey, support these makers, hey, support these makers, hey, support. And it was just this beautiful like it was just this beautiful effort to provide so much support in a time when there's so much uncertainty. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is everyone's like, we put so much stock in as a maker into selling at holiday time, and we don't have our markets that are going to get us through. And that really, oh my gosh, I mean, I learned even while we were still doing the yoga training that like holiday will make or break a maker. And
Sure.
I had no expectations going into holiday 2020. I mean, we were going to make all sorts of brand changes, and I just kind of put the brakes on things. But more than anything, it was like, okay, whatever we can do, it's going to be so that we keep our staff employed. At the end of the day, like I'll make whatever sacrifices I need to make, and we will keep, making the product and selling it to people. So we had a really, really nice day with on our website on Small Business Saturday, and we would have been at like 3 different markets this weekend. And so that sucks.
Sure.
That sucks. But I hope ultimately it means that the conscious consumer is saying like, I want my dollars to go as far as possible. And so if I'm going to spend $50 at Isador Nut Company, I'm going to spend $50 at Serious Jam, and I'm going to spend $50 over here, and I'm going to run into buy gift cards at my favorite yoga studio and things like that. Like conscious consumerism means like not over consuming and consuming in a way that spreads the wealth. Let's just spread the love, spread the wealth, and just help ourselves. Let's just get through this.
Right.
On the other side of it, let's be stronger because we're resilient, and we can pivot.
Oh, pivot. The pivot word. It is a good word, though. Yes, for sure. And we will have out. I had aspirations of having it done by this weekend, but then I realized I didn't know who all was going to be having sales and things like that. Next week, probably, let's see. Yes, for sure. By the time this episode airs, there will be the Ethical Consumer Holiday Shopping Guide. So, and you're going to be on there. So, but highlighting those businesses and those brands too, because it is hard. And I agree. I went on Instagram yesterday, and it was beautiful. And all of the stories, there were so many tags, I couldn't keep up with them. It was just like this overwhelming love and support of like small businesses supporting small businesses, and it was really sweet. And it was the amount of emails that you get on Black Friday, it's just those were a breath of fresh air that were like, hey, mention this, not like, hey, we're 70% off. Everyone loves a sale, but it was just nice to see that uplift in the local and small community, and it made me very happy. Very happy.
Absolutely. Well, this has made me very happy. I'm so honored that you invited me to be on the program. This is so cool. We talk about this sort of thing all day long.
I love it. I love it. Love it. So you have dropped some nuggets of wisdom throughout the entire episode. Do you have any last recommendations for consumers or small businesses, anybody?
Well, I think that, I heard this a few years ago, and I've really tried to cling to it. It's just community over competition, because as you said, when more people are reaching out and sharing the spotlight, sharing the mic with others, just full stop, just share the spotlight and share the mic with others. That's good karma right there. It will come back to benefit you, and you don't even know what kind of form that's going to take. But community over competition is really the way that we're going to help and support each other and grow stronger.
That's beautiful. And now for the hardest question. What do you like to eat when you're not eating your own snacks?
Oh,
Always the hardest question. I save it for last.
That's a good one. Oh, man. So we got a gas grill this summer for our Mother Day, Father Day combination gift. And I really love to grill. I've had so much fun, but one thing I'm just perfectly happy grilling is like salmon skewers, nicely marinated salmon skewers. And I would have that alongside, something like, I don't know, like roasted delicata squash and maybe like a kale salad that's got ricotta, salata, and toasted pine nuts, and like a shallot lemon vinaigrette.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And I haven't had breakfast yet, and I am wanting salmon now. Can you crumble up some of the lemon rosemary nut mix and put it on your salad too? I'm thinking of the salmon, and I'm thinking I want rosemary on that and a squeeze of lemon and some goodness, and yes.
So my 14-year-old actually created the most popular salmon recipe we have in our house, which is zesty lemon salmon, and you can still do that right on the grill. It is taking your fillet of salmon, spreading some extra virgin olive oil over it, and then crumbling up your the extra crumbles that you get in the bag of your zesty lemon rosemary, and literally like kind of not breading, but breading, if you will,
Sure.
The top of that salmon, and then grilling it. And so then the flavor just like really just like seeps through, and you've got the toasted nuts, and you've got the rosemary, and the, that freshness from the lemon. So that, and in fact, if you want, I can share a little recipe card with you that you can, share on your website for our zesty lemon salmon.
Totally share that. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, please. I should make a recipe blog of all of our guests and their goodness.
That would be so fun.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Do something like tag Brene Brown for that, so that like you'll get the extra.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Recipes noted. Oh, beautiful. And then, my dear, where can we find more information about you? Where can folks find your goods locally? And then you do have e-commerce too.
Yes. So Isador Nut Co, NUTCO.com. That's our website. We have made the choice to join the big behemoths, and if you are an Amazon Prime shopper, you can actually now find our products on Amazon. So just search Isador Nut Co there as well. but we do have on our website. There is a list of locations that you can click on, and it'll take you. And some places have struggled more during this pandemic, I'm sad to say, and you won't find us at everything that's on that list. But I'm not going to take those off because I believe that we will be back there at some point in time. But if you're in the Twin Cities, definitely visit some of those great co-ops. Eastside Co-op in Northeast Minneapolis, The Wedge, Linden Hills. We're also in Surdix, right down near downtown. And go on Instagram. Yeah, check out our Instagram. And, obviously I've been a bit opinionated on your podcast and more opinionated on Instagram. So
I love it. No, it's a good thing. We like to nudge boundaries. We don't push them, but we nudge them. I like nudging boundaries. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'll just say real quickly, there was probably about 10 seconds somewhere after the start of 2017 where I had to decide, was I going to be Switzerland?
Mm-hmm.
It was about 7 seconds of contemplation.
Yeah. And then you decided, nah.
No. There's no time for Switzerland. There's time for standing with your convictions and, your brand, in the case of Isador Nut Company, the brand is Tasya. Mm-hmm. I am the brand. So.
And you are wonderful, and that shines through your brand. It is so heartfelt and consciously created and put out there too. And I love that the brand stands behind what you stand behind too. You don't have this separation of self and brand. It is what it is. And I think that should be, there we go. Punching it a little bit again here. There's too many brands and companies that stay neutral, say we're a brand, not a person. Okay. You have a whole bunch of people working for you and you own this brand. No more. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah. Stand up for what you believe in and, show that next generation that their voice matters and advocate for the change you want to see in the world. We're not going to get change if we don't say we need change.
For sure.
And support one another and link arms and walk towards that change the best way we can. And,
Oh, I love it. Yay. Oh, man.
This is so fun.
I love this. So good. Well, guys, Tasya said you can find products online. And for the record, I think, unfortunately, 2020, just with all things considered, there's been a lot of small companies that have opted to sell through Amazon to be able to survive. It's one of those things that you do have to make sure that you're there in the future. And if that's a way that you can do that right now, and that eventually everyone's going to be back in their favorite little mom and pop shops, if that's what we got to do this year, that's what we got to do. And I don't think there's any guilt or shame to be had around that. You gotta be able to exist. And sometimes that requires a little, not sacrifice, not anything like that. On the upside, more people get to have your wonderful products. But, that's, again, we're all pivoting, and we'll keep pivoting. And then we'll pivot back to our 100% wonderful local and small and community-oriented things once we can do that. Let's get over this sooner rather than later.
Yes.
So,
be safe. It's just, I love seeing pictures of people going to retailers yesterday, but it's also like, oh my God, just stay home. Just order online. Those companies would be happy for you to do curbside pickup if you could do that. Just stay home, mask up, think about the weakest in your family, and just take care of one another.
For sure.
A lot of love out on Zoom. I think it's pretty cool to see your face.
I think so too. We had Zoomsgiving in my family. That was our option. So, nice. Yep. Well, wonderful. Tasya, thank you so much. Guys, you will find all of their stuff and then some of the shout outs too on our Instagram and Facebook. Look for the Ethical Consumer Holiday Shopping Guide that will be out by the time this episode is out.
Woohoo.
And keep supporting small and local and keep our little guys going because, man, this is the good stuff right here. This is the consciously curated and heartfelt thing that we all need. All of us, all of us. Thank you so much.